overview of what they will talk about. So we've got our Incident Controller, Anthony Maxwell, Operations Officer, Grant Tucker, Planning Officer, Victor Hurley, he might be coming in a bit later, and the Acting Senior Sergeant, Matt Jenkins. Matt, are you here?
Not yet.
Not yet, he'll be coming in. So they'll give a brief overview of the situation with the fire currently and the road closures and information about that. We also have the Orbost Captain, Jeff Johnson, who's behind me, I believe. He'll say a few words. From the Shire, we have the Mayor, John White, and the CEO, Anthony Basford. We also have, from DHHS, we have Lou Richardson, and from AgVic, Michelle Joliffe. So they'll and Ambulance Victoria, we have Michelle, we have two Michelles.
Oh, two Michelles.
Yeah, that's right, who's a local paramedic. All right, so the purpose of tonight's meeting is really to let you know about what's happening with the fire right now and the situation and how it's being dealt with. We are aware and we are sensitive to the fact there are concerns in the community about broader issues around the history of the fire, how it might have started, all those kinds of things. Unfortunately, this isn't the forum to discuss those things, and as I said, we don't have a lot of time. There will be future community meetings where we can address other issues that may arise, but I will be pulling people up fairly shortly to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to ask the questions that are relevant for right now and your immediate sort of safety and relief and recovery. So to start off, we'll get a situation update from Incident Controller, Anthony Maxwell.
G'day.
Oh, sorry, I will just mention, and I've stood in the wrong place, we are live streaming the meeting tonight so that people outside the area or who can't fit in this room can see what's going on.
Thanks, Jackie. So first of all, I'd like to say thanks everybody for coming out tonight. As Jackie said, my name's Anthony Maxwell, and I'm an Incident Controller. I'm actually from the Yarra Valley, so I'm a visitor to these parts. Stand over the side.
Sorry, camera, we might have to.
Yeah, sorry. Is that right? So yeah, I'm from the Yarra Valley, so I apologise if I get some pronunciations of towns and things wrong. So look, favourable weather conditions have slowed the spread of the fire for us, which is pretty obvious today. In terms of our warnings, we've been able to really downgrade our warnings now, which people would see, particularly the area where we are in Orbost, is back down to just an information warning. So we're trying to keep the warnings updated as much as possible. So we're raising them and we're putting them down quite rapidly so that we can work with communities to make sure you guys have the latest possible information. Crews have been working extremely hard, and I've got to thank everybody involved in the response, including members of the community who have supported our crews and the emergency responders, whether by providing food, accommodation, or simply following directions to evacuate, so we aren't diverting resources or endangering our crews. So I might just also give a little bit of statewide context, if I can, just so people get a broader view. We don't actually have a full statewide picture map. As people would have seen on the news, we've got unprecedented fires across southeastern Australia, both in Victoria and in New South Wales. A lot of crews and incident management personnel have been going since early November to other states, so Queensland, New South Wales, and now obviously we've got our fires in Victoria. So currently we've got 27 fires currently active across the state, and more than 1.2 million hectares have been burnt. So we're talking figures similar to those experienced back in 02, 03 and 06, 07. The main fire areas, so for East Gippsland, there are 14 active fires in East Gippsland, covering some 900,000 hectares. 535,000 hectares are in this snowy region, and we're trying to manage that complex of fires here out of the Orbost office. So it's a very big task that we're trying to do, and just given the statewide context, resources are very scarce, so we're trying to do the best that we can with the people that we've got. Again, across the state, at this stage 2 people have been confirmed, 2 confirmed fatalities, 4 are still Approximately 204 property losses and more than 243 outbuildings have been impacted by fire. Now those numbers are expected to rise considerably when impact assessment teams start getting in and unfortunately finding what they find. So stock losses in East Gippsland are sitting at around 1,400, and again, once we get more roads open, we get in, we're expecting those numbers to rise as well. Currently across the state, there's more than 1,000 firefighters continuing to work on fires. But luckily, I think all emergency warnings have now been downgraded to watch and act, which is a great thing, and that's due to the weather that we've got at the moment. Now this weather's not going to hang around long, as everybody knows, so we've got a bit of respite, and so we're really trying to make the most of the respite that we've currently got. So locally at Orbost, we've got 380 firefighters deployed to Orbost, working on these complex of fires. So we've got we'll just leave this one actually, sorry. So that's the current complex of fires that we're operating from Orbost here at the moment. So, being the non-local, from Malakuta all the way through to the Snowy River, the majority of that area, as you can see, has been impacted by fire and is continuing to be impacted by fire. So our main focuses are really around keeping people safe and really trying to get into those isolated communities. We're bolstering town defences and we're trying to provide medical response where we can. And we are working to restore essential services and road access, and Grant will talk a little bit about that in a minute. So people would know there is a lot of smoke in the air. That's not just our fires, so the fires from New South Wales are impacting our smoke quality down here as well. And we haven't got EPA, but HHS might have some answers to questions if people have questions around the smoke that is impacting us. So for me, priorities really are around safety of firefighting crews and the community, so you guys, providing you with timely and tailored warnings. So as I've said, the warnings are moving around, up and down, and we're trying to provide the best advice we can to the community in a timely fashion. The next priority for us really is about opening roads, particularly into those isolated communities. And we have quite a number of isolated communities across our footprint. 26 isolated communities in total. So it is a very complex thing. And at the moment, the fourth priority for us is fighting the fire. So as we know, this fire's been going for quite a while now, and it's really for us, it's about steering the fire or getting 200 mil of rain on the fire to put it out. So likelihood of that in January, as we all know, is quite low. So Mike Grant, if you can just come up and just give a bit of local context and some of the work that we've been concentrating on, please.
Grant Tucker, I'm a local operations officer here in Orbost. Essentially, we usually look after this patch anyway, about 1 million hectares of public land, just out of interest. Our primary focus is obviously we've got a lot of people isolated in Malakuta, so we've been working to evacuate people out of there. There's a parallel process running with a lot of other agencies supporting, including the Defence Force. But we have people in there making Malakuta Township safe, doing hazard tree treatments, isolating asbestos. Isolating, power lines that have come down, helping keep generators running, helping to organise logistics, helping to organise aircraft coming in and out, helping to organise crews coming in and out of Malakuta and other resources. So that's operating on its own. Then we move over to, so we've broken this into 5 divisions. Malakuta Division. In the Can River Division, Can River's been cut off a couple of times now. We're working really hard at the moment to secure Can River, so the areas that aren't burnt, we're going to burn out to secure those private property interfaces. We've managed to secure the south, the west and the east of Can River now, so it's really working up the Nurrumbee Valley, if anyone from here is from there. At some point, our priority in that division will also shift to trying to do something around the little towns of Fernell, Tamboon South and Tamboon. and that's a fairly complicated job because of distances and isolation. One of the things that we've been doing is we've managed to move an entire community out of Can River using prepared roads that were previously prepared by Forest Fire Management. So I don't know, a few of you might know about the Reducing Bushfire Risk program. So when you drive around our roads and you see Cabbage Street Palms is a good example, out on the highway out here, Old Coast Road, where we treat the verges. So you know, we have a large verge or a working platform, and then we treat hazard trees to 2 tree lengths. So fortunately, we've done that on Old Coast Road, which comes out of Can River and goes down to Bem River. And so while the highway is not secured, we've been able to move communities in and out, even although there's fire both sides, through that work that we've done there. So that was fortuitous that we actually had that funding last year and got that work finished. Now I'll move over to the Bendoc division before we focus on Orbost. So Bendoc's still, Bendoc, and that goes right across to the Dedic Valley, is still at risk. Obviously the fire hasn't reached that location yet, and under a southwesterly or a similar fire conditions, it could potentially push this way. We've got another risk. There's another big fire up here that's not under our management, which could potentially push from the north into that zone as well. So people might have heard that we evacuated that zone the other day under the predicted fire conditions. Now, we did cop a bit of flack for evacuating and moving back to Bombala, but the predictions were that that was going to be entirely overrun. So we put a whole bunch of community messaging out to get the community out of there. Not everyone chose to leave, and that's the case right through this landscape. Not everyone's chosen to leave. And so we do have isolated people, and while we would have preferred they'd left, we'll still be trying to help them, obviously. So there's very strong potential that this community could be turned on and off and on and off again. Depending on the fire behaviour, we will come back out of there. And last time the extreme conditions were predicted, we actually went back to Bombala to assist the RFS in protecting Bombala and protecting all of the community members who were asked to move to the Bombala Refuge Centre. So that's the rationale behind that. So people have to realise that under the current environmental conditions, it's unprecedented environmental conditions that we've got, extreme and erratic fire behaviour, we can't afford to be putting anyone's life at risk, firefighter or community member, on top of protecting an asset. People have to come to that realisation. So, and I'm not going to apologise for that, we have to look after safety. If we can zoom in on Orbost. So as far as Orbost goes, after the big run of fire on the 30th or whatever it was, 30th, yeah, came down into Orbost, we've been working really hard to secure the northern end of Orbost, so we've blacked that out and burned out wherever we can. We've also burned out from Beatbelong down to Simpsons Creek and out to Patelli's Crossing, burned all the country that's available out there. Some of that's planned burning that didn't get burnt there, so it's hopefully providing a bit of refuge for some animals and things in there at the moment. Then we've also working from Orbost, we're working out along the highway and taking out anything that can affect the highway. The security of the highway is becoming a significant issue, and as much as we don't want to burn out the last bits of bush, the reality is that this is going to be sitting on us all summer, and if we don't burn it out, there's potential it'll push across the highway and end up back in town at some stage. So we've got to remove the fuel and secure that highway at some point. We've blacked out everything south of the highway, so down in the morass there, you know, that stuff won't move back up towards us under a southwesterly. We're continuing township protection works, and we're doing a bunch of work down in Marlow at the moment to protect Marlow, which hasn't been impacted yet. So Marlow was the last one on the list, and we're down there now. That's about it, I think.
Thanks for that. We've got our local sergeant now who can talk about some of the road issues. Sorry, I'm going to move away from this speaker.
Yeah, we do have the highway open. Please, all I'm asking is if you are travelling to and from Bairnsdale, please obey the speed limit. I know it's slow, but we've got a lot of impact by smoke and today fog. So please just drive safely, headlights on. If it starts getting really bad, flick your hazards on and just follow at a slow pace. We've had a couple of near misses. Again, if you see fire appliances or people on the side of the road, slow right down because you don't know what's actually going to happen. So just take it easy. We're in for a long run. As they stated, we do have supply lines into some of the remote locations, but I'm telling you now, our highway could still be blocked at any time, and we probably won't get east for quite a substantial amount of time. So we're just asking everyone, please be patient, please look after each other. Your health is another big thing for us as well. We're getting a lot of calls. Just take it easy, start getting some health checks. If you're starting to feel a bit harder breathing, please head up to the hospital and get checked out for us. But like I said, it's going to be a long time. We're going to be dealing with this for months and months. The threat's not over yet. Please heed any warnings that are given by DELP or Victoria Police or EMV. Please heed those warnings. Like I said, it's not over yet. We can have another decent day coming up. I think it's looking Friday, so please keep monitoring that emergency app. Use RFR with the Red Cross, that Register Find Unite. If you haven't registered, please register so people can get in contact with you. It makes it a lot easier for the emergency services because people are constantly ringing, asking us to do welfare checks. So it takes up a lot of resources. So please, if you know anyone who hasn't registered and have moved or come back, please update the details on RFR. But that's pretty much from me.
We'll now open the floor to some questions about what you've just heard, so the situation and the roads. So I'll repeat the question because we've only got one microphone, and then if we can, we'll ask one of our operations people to come back and answer those. Yep, just here.
Those of us who registered the other day at the last meeting, has that gone to RFR or have we got to do that ourselves separately?
So the question was, if you've registered with the Red Cross here at the meeting, did that go into the system automatically, or is it something that needs to be followed up? I'm not sure.
I don't think we've managed to get that on the system because we haven't had Red Cross here. So, yeah, please get on now and do it. See, we've got the internet and power back on. Please do it again. That list I've got still. I'm sorry, speakers are playing. I've still got that list in handwritten form. We just haven't had the time or the resources to go through it. So please just jump online and register again. If you have been registered previously, it'll come up and tell you. So.
Yep. Where do you go to register?
The question was, where do you go to register? There is a community newsletter up the front here that has the email address in it. If you have access to Vic Emergency, it's in all of our current warnings and advice. But if you search for it online, it will come up. Find, register. Sorry, what is it called? Register, find, reunite. If you don't have access to internet or that's an issue, come and see us afterwards, and we'll talk to you about that. Sorry, just here.
Yep. Can you just clarify for the Canberra River community, within the newsletter, there's mention of a convoy coming out and a convoy going back. What does that mean for the residents who want to go home? Can they go home? I'm not sure.
So at this stage, the road's not safe for residents to return there, and the convoy, as far as I'm aware, is just to get supplies for those people. So, as we said before, those warnings can change dramatically, and the road's not a safe place to be. The last thing we want to have to do is evacuate Canberra River again with roads that are really, really dangerous. At the moment, it's only safe for emergency response vehicles, and those that drive along it will see it's extremely dangerous.
Thank you, I thought I'd clarify.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Sorry, I said I would repeat the question there, but it was about the convoy. So people who convoy out from from Can River and Bem River tomorrow will be able to return once they've, if they wish to, back in the afternoon. But at this stage, no one else will be able to join that. I think it was over here first up the back there. Yeah.
I've got a comment about the Red Cross. I left on Friday and I registered in Sale. I tried to get onto their website and the 1-800 number. The website would not accept my date of birth, so you must insert a date of birth, it was correct. And I could not get on the 1-800 number. It said please take the number and try it again.
Okay. We might have to, with the Red Cross issues, it's not something we can directly address here in too much detail. We might try to follow up on that and get some information out in our next updates and community information. But we will, if we can keep the questions to specifically what's been discussed before at this stage, there'll be more opportunity at the end. But yeah, we take that on board. So yep, the lady in the doorway.
I just want to know, what is our quality of drinking water sitting at the moment?
We might get to that. DHHS is also going to speak, and the council. We might come back to that if we can. Yeah, come back to that one. So yeah, questions about the current fire situation or the roads. Yep, just here.
Does Manarina come under that Can River restricted travel? Can we get back to Manarina?
Sorry, what was the name of the town?
Manarina.
Is Manarima part of the Can River convoy that's coming? Is that what you're asking?
Can we get to Manarina, or does it come under the Can River restriction?
Yeah, unfortunately it's still unsafe at Manarina. They are working at it. So as areas are opened up and deemed safe by the agencies, we may allow local residents with an address in those areas, but at this stage Manarina is not safe.
So do they contact you to find out?
No, it'll be let know at the traffic management points, and it'll if appropriate, we will actually put it in a app. But at this stage, it's still way too unsafe.
Yeah.
It sounds great, the protection they do for the towns, but what about the people living east of Marlow?
So the question was protection for communities east of Marlow. What's being done in that space?
Yeah, so as I indicated before, we're trying to secure the highway and trying to make sure that nothing moves south of the highway at this stage, and that's our main focus. We're concentrating on town centres because that's where the majority of people have been asked to move to. And as opportunity arises and resources become available, we'll do some more fire protection works out around the Marlow Plains and areas like that. At the moment, with the resource we've got, we're not able to move out that way at this stage. We did, under some pretty dire conditions, manage to secure Bem River with some backburning, but there's some complications about putting a whole bunch of fire into this community because it's not as discrete, I guess. It's not a discrete unit the way Bem River was. Bem River's a bit of a discrete unit that we could work with. So we've definitely got it in mind, and that's one of the reasons why we've worked really hard to black out the spot over at the Cabbage Street Palms. The other reason we work really hard at that is so it doesn't compromise the Mount Raymond Fire Tower and comms infrastructure up on Mount Raymond over there. So the answer to your question is we will, but we're not actually at that stage yet, and we would like you to keep monitoring your apps and keep implementing your fire plan until we can secure that community as well.
Alright, just the last one and we'll move on.
May I ask, are you able to talk about the wind and what wind direction we should take note of? You know, we've been using the radio and that's where we felt confident the other day. However, it's just in terms of this, because there's been so much burnt stack burning down.
Yeah, so the question was, what wind directions should we be aware of?
Yeah.
Okay, so ordinarily the worst fire weather normally comes from the north or the northwest. That's where you get your dry pushes from. The hot air comes across the continent, and by the time it gets to Victoria, it's very hot and dry. You're often, with that, you'll get a change and you'll get a southwesterly wind change. So you end up with fire running from the north or northwest, a southwesterly wind change which turns what would be a flank of fire into a fire front. Under the dry conditions that we've got now, it's not unfeasible that an easterly could also push something that's not secured from here. So the short answer is everything except a southerly or southwesterly is probably dangerous to this community at this point with the underlying dryness out there. So you should monitor those conditions and keep an eye on your apps. And for us, I'm from Marlow, and the other night our apps went down. ABC radio was essentially our lifeline, and we had it on a transistor radio at home.
If we have time at the end, we'll come back to some more of those questions. But now I'll hand over to the Orbost Brigade Captain, Jeff.
Not too many people probably know me as Jeff, but actually you probably know me as Dick. Jeff, yeah. But I'd just like to say that Orbost is certainly not out of the woods yet and reimbursed what Grant and that said, because we get 2 days of 30 degrees and we're back to the same where we were. And that's one of the things that we've got to keep in mind, is that we've got to still be very vigilant out there. On Saturday, I think we had 14 fires restarts again. Basically, there was no new ones. We need to be vigilant, because they're the ones that can do us. The ones that are lying dormant for a little while from the stuff. So overall, I think Orbost done pretty well out of the fires. For the damage and that we got, it wasn't high. It wasn't no houses involved in Orbost itself. Out in Jarramon, there was a lot of grass and a lot of fences and stuff like that. So overall, I thought the brigade and everyone else done very well here. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all the people that we work with, like Grant and the police and everyone. It's I think 300 and something people all together. I think there was 130 something CFA people, and that's what makes it all tick. And it's a pleasure to actually go through this big fire and come out with the results that we've done by working with the organisation we got, and it's a great organisation. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Sorry, Dick, they don't put nicknames on my sheet, unfortunately. We'll keep moving through. So next we have from East Gippsland Shire, the Mayor, John White, and then the CEO, Anthony Bradsford, sorry, we'll speak. Basford, apologies, it's been a long day.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, to actually be able to get here, because obviously, as everyone spoke before, you have been isolated for some time, and I was told that at your last committee meeting there were a large number of people here, and there are also a large number here tonight. And to me that says you have survived a very, most anxious week and a bit, and it's just so pleasing that you have survived and you are here to listen to what's probably going to be coming forward. I would like to just acknowledge colleague Councillor Reeves here, because you were so isolated and we were way back in Bairnsdale. He was our eyes and ears for this area and down to Malakuta through his networking to be able to keep us informed as much as possible of what was happening to you. And as everybody's saying, a few more warm days and it's back to being vigilant and probably anxious. We as a Shire, perhaps the early meetings were all about what was to come, which becomes all these the fire experts to give you the advice. Now as a Shire, we've moved into the phase where we really do have to start working hard, because it becomes the recovery as a result of what's happened. And that's where probably as a Shire, that's where we do our work. We need, very happy for anyone who has been impacted that feels they need the support of what the Shire can offer, to please advise us. The number of the number of donations, which you probably aren't aware of because you have been isolated, but the number of donations of non-perishable goods, clothing, bottles of water is unbelievable. We've actually had to ask people, could you please wait back in Melbourne or Dandenong or wherever you are with your truckloads of goods, because we can't fit another bit in. Every bit of storage is being used, and we have brought stuff. Some of our relief people, the volunteers, have been making packages, and it's been brought as far as Orbost. Now, I understand that you're probably not so short of things here, but it's sitting here in Orbost, hoping to get through to the places like Club Terrace and Combined Bar and Genoa, who they actually are out of food, and they probably don't have clean water. So so we're sort of using this as a next launching pad to be just a little bit closer to these communities. And I'll tell you what, we've been noticed by a few. We have had our Premier down twice to Bairnsdale on consecutive days. We then got the Prime Minister, and then yesterday at Bairnsdale at the Relief Centre, the Governor-General himself came. And the thing that came out of all those visits was that they were so impressed with the way our communities are sticking together and working together, and how respectful they are. And it's just, I suppose I could use a politician's term, Darren Chester, he often says, well, shit happens. It's not anybody's fault, but we are doing the best we can, and I believe actually the best we can is at a very high level, both from community groups, yourselves, in looking after yourselves, heeding the warnings. This is the main thing. You know, when it gets warm again, just heed those warnings, because Andrew Crisp, I guess you could say the very first one, which was just before New Year's Eve, he tried as strongly as he could to advise people to leave, but not yourselves so much, but the tourists in the area. And they actually didn't heed that, and then the next thing we see, thousands of people trapped in Malakuta. A mad rush down the highway as people did realise there was a terrible incident about to happen. They're the panic things we don't need, and so then of course the Premier's introduced this new level of basically saying, if we tell you to go and you don't go, we will make you go. We will forcibly remove you, because the risk is, and there's plenty of people say, a fence, a house, a shed can always be replaced, but human life can't be. And this is where there is no going back from that, and you just need to adhere to those warnings. Now, I got a text late last night from the Governor-General's aide, and he said the Governor-General is very measured in his response. So being military or ex-military, he thinks things through and is pretty precise in what he says. And they flew back to Canberra late yesterday, and his press secretary said he could not shut him up. He just spoke, talked and talked and talked about our communities and how overwhelmed he was with the way everybody was taking to our disaster. In times to come, as I said with the Shire, what we have to do is to get into recovery. And to me, it's the farmers with their stock losses. That's a tragedy after years of drought to have these things happen. I think yesterday began, because most places we still haven't been able to get to, we have begun trying to dispose of those livestock that have been dead for in excess of a week, and they need to be disposed of very quickly for all sorts of reasons, particularly for health. I still need to just say thank you to everybody who's been volunteering. We had the CFA, but there are groups who have formed in a day to start doing, they're just concerned citizens who have not been involved, just want to help. So as I said, we're just so overwhelmed. If I have to touch another slab of bottled water or a bundle of toilet paper, I can handle that. The slabs of water were getting heavy by about 8 o'clock last night, so I chose the toilet rolls. I was happy to carry them off the truck. But it's all people that have donated stuff, but and you will all reap the benefits of this as it's gone out into your areas, and it's the next thing that we really hope is that people who actually still want to give will actually give from their wallets to our emergency relief fund, which has already started to give money out, and Anthony will probably speak of this because I'm starting to tread on his territory. I'm supposed to be your community person. He's operations, so he'll be able to speak pretty much more concisely on the things that council will be doing. But just to reassure you, look, on our trip up, we stopped at a few places. Just very small communities that were still accessible on our way up, just to say, was there anything they needed? And they did have a little shopping list, and which is understandable. There was just a few things they needed. And I would say by tomorrow morning, we will have already ticked that shopping list off, because Anthony was straight on the phone to his officers and he was getting things done. And that's all they wanted. They're just very small things, just a bigger bin than what they had, because they had a lot of their own food and stuff that was in freezers, and with the power off for so long, you know, you've had it happen to you before. You've just got to throw it all out, all that good food, because it's not safe, but you need somewhere to put it. So that's just it, you know, the wheelie bin's not going to do it. So these are just all those little things, and as a council, we are your community. And I also, for Anthony's staff, I would actually like to say they have been working their butts off, double shifts, just working so hard to assist everybody in every way they can, and when they do finally get home, you must remember they are part of your community also. So they have done an outstanding job, and they're not stopping now. They're going to continue to work, and I tip my hat to them, and I think as a community you probably should do the same, because they are out there for you. So thank you very much.
I'll hand over to Anthony Baston.
That's fine. Hi everyone. Thanks for your time. Thanks for making the effort to come out. I think it's really important that we acknowledge at these times the stress and anxiety that these type of events bring for people, that they do put people under pressure. We've got all our volunteers from all our various response agencies who are tired, they're exhausted, they've been going, and all the people that support them as well. And I think that's really important, because when someone's on the front line, there's someone else behind the scenes providing that support to them, making sure they eat and they've got water and fuel and all those things that go with it. So it's really important that people at this time just remember there is a lot of stress and in the community, and this community, your community, will also have been put under pressure on days like this where you can barely see and you can barely breathe. They're very, very difficult days. As John alluded to, our services have been stretched as well. I know there's been a bit of confusion over relief centres or places of assembly. We've had staff who have evacuated, we've had staff who have had to go and fight and protect their own properties, or are involved in response agencies. And I think that's the other thing. The sheer magnitude of this event means that we are dealing with response, with relief, and we've now started recovery all at the same time. So I appreciate that, you know, sometimes things don't go as well as we would hope, and that you kind of think back and say, geez, I wish that had been better, or whatever it might be, but it is important to know that people are trying to do the best they can. In terms of what we do know is that there has been a significant impact on a range of assets across the Shire. Roads in particular have been a big issue, as was mentioned. We've lost quite a number of bridges. Quite heartbreakingly, we've also lost quite a number of historical bridges, and we really won't know how bad that is until we can get people in there. Someone said that the rapid impact assessments are being done at the moment. That's true. They're really making good headway in that. But what follows then is a much more detailed assessment of those properties and what's needed. One of the things that we are trying to manage and is around waste. And so I guess this is for people that may have been impacted or that you know, although through those connections. We know that the state will make some announcements or arrangements around clean up of debris. That just hasn't been made at this point in time. We don't know what that will be, but we know that that will come at some point. We are trying from a household waste perspective to make sure that the household waste is still dealt with and managed. But in terms of clean up, that is going to come later, and there will be more information on that. So please just keep a watching brief on that, because one of the things is, for places that are impacted, what we don't want is for people to deal with or be handling contaminated or materials, which can be really, really bad for everyone involved, including the person, obviously, that's dealing with that. Someone mentioned to me earlier as well about economic impact. We know that there will be significant economic impact. This is the busiest time of year for East Gippsland. We know that normally there are visitors, the places are bulging, you could barely get a seat in cafes, all those sorts of things. And what we see is that all the places are empty. That's going to have a massive impact on people. Someone was telling me a story about someone who normally has a part-time job that supports them through the things they want to do through the year. And now they don't have that part-time job. So that's going to impact them as well. So there is going to be all these stories and all these really important things that we have to work through from an economic point of view. Now, it may seem too early when the fires are still burning down the road, but people are hurting now. So I know DHHS will perhaps talk about what you can do in terms of accessing dollars if you need money in your pocket. Certainly the Gippsland Emergency Relief Fund is providing funds and has already provided about 250,000 out to people that are needing funds. So, and there is registrations as well around Red Cross. And I think we need to be careful, and I don't want to cross over into DHHS's world here, but we need to be careful between Red Cross registration at a relief centre and the online registration around being reunited with people. So, what else have we got here? I think that's all that. Again, the relief centres, we will keep them open as long as we need them. And can I just thank those volunteers that have just opened up buildings for us and made sure that there's tea and coffee and toilets and showers for people. I know it hasn't been perfect. We've certainly got to look at it because it wasn't right. So we will, we need to make sure we review that and get it right for next time. God forbid next time. But we need to look at that. The pool, critically important asset for a community. It has been impacted by ash in the water, and so we're looking to try and get that up and decontaminated and reopened towards the end of the week. There is a newsletter that we've put out today for today's Monday. We've put out the first edition today. This is different to the Emergency Management Victoria newsletter. We're not going to repeat the information in their newsletter. This is about local community information of what the Shire and what Council and the agencies that work with that are doing. So that'll go out 3 times a week. It'll be online. We'll try and get hard copies into various community facilities. As information grows, we will add information about specific sites. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I just hand over to the next person is about we're moving into recovery. So we have already put in place some arrangements to get a recovery centre open in Bairnsdale. As it's safe to do so, we will start to move those recovery functions out into various communities so that people don't have to drive to Bairnsdale, so they can access that information locally. A recovery centre has all the different agencies that you might need to access if you've been impacted by the fire. So it's a suite of services. It's like a one-stop shop of things that you can do. We're also looking at, is it possible to get a sort of a mobile service, a bit like the mobile library service that we have that goes around. We've put submissions into the government already to try and get funds. We know we're going to need additional people. We know we're going to need additional funds to do things. We've started that process as well to let them know the sort of early thinking about what we need in terms of resources. And that's probably about all I need to say at this point in time, but at the end I'm happy to take questions. We don't need to rush away, and John and I will be staying here for a little while, so I'll pass it back.
We can take a couple of questions for the Shire at the moment. Yep, great blue jacket.
Yes, just like standing up.
You're all right.
Yeah, I'd like to contribute some money now And if we do a whip around, I think we could raise a bit of money.
Alright, so people who would like to donate, we might do that, we might leave that to the end because we'll keep going.
Take
but at
that
the end,
so I can
I'm
go
sorry,
and sit
can't
down
take
again.
your money.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Alright, you take care of that. I'm sure you're trusting.
That's $100 and probably I guess you could feel, you know, you probably can't afford that, but that is so generous and it will go directly to the right place. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Sorry, yeah?
Just regarding forced evacuations, as far as I understand, none of us would be here in that case, and the order was for the entire of East Gippsland to evacuate. It's okay to tell people to leave, but is there going to be anywhere for them to go?
Yep, so the question was about forced evacuations, and wasn't the whole of East Gippsland under this order? So we'll get two-part answer. We'll go to the big poll first.
Okay, the first part is about forced evacuations. After the Black Saturday fires, new legislation was put in place that gave, if the state declared a state of disaster in an area, that actually gave the government special powers. Now, those powers do include forced evacuation. Obviously, for such a large area, there was a near impossibility to do that. Now that we don't have so many people, if it is in a location that we deem that yes, we're still under the disaster declaration and we need to move, let's say there's 25 people in a certain community, we can probably do that. We chose not to because of the situation. Now, we still recommend, if you're told to leave, leave. Now, when those evacuation orders come into place, there's always somewhere to go to, whether or not it's a local safer place or down to Vansdale to a relief centre. So again, we just can't stress enough, after the Black Saturday fires, these powers are there. We haven't used them. It also opens up a lot of powers for us as well to commandeer businesses, land, buildings, whatever we need to get the community through this emergency. So that's what that declaration was all about. But there is always we always plan to have somewhere to go. As the police are usually the evacuation managers, we have actually evacuation plans for just about every community in our area. The only one we actually officially enacted was for Goongra because of the high impact there. So we've got an official door knock and we recorded everyone's responses there. So that was, the reason was because it was too unsafe for firefighters, it was too unsafe for the community and too unsafe for us. So we got in and got out early. So those powers are there and we will enact them if we need be.
So they will be used reasonably and intelligently?
Of course.
Not just a total mass evacuation?
Well, that's what they're there for. But like the Premier and Andrew Crisp gave it out for the entire East Gippsland Shire because we knew, well, the predictions were, we couldn't know anything, but the predictions were we were going to have a mass event, and that's what's occurred. This event is now spilling over into the Wellington Shire. So from a police perspective, we're now also looking into Wellington. So I know we're struggling at the moment, but we've also got to start thinking down the line because this is still moving, this fire. It's very active. It's into New South Wales. Eden has been impacted. We also have fires just over the hill into Wangaretta's patch as well, which are moving up towards our area as well. So I know we're struggling and I know we've got a long road to go, but Wellington have just kicked off and we've also got others to think of as well. So just keep that in mind as well.
Can I just add, so there was Sale, there was a relief centre set up at Sale, there was also one set up in Morwell. Bairnsdale actually had two sites, the City Oval as well as the racecourse. To the north, Delegate was originally opened, but that became too unsafe and now that's moved to Bombala because obviously, as we all know, New South Wales has got its own problems as well. But there were very much those knock-on places where people could go in terms of relief. And there was also, because of the Malakuta evacuation, there was also one, I believe, in Mornington or Hastings as well set up. So our cousins down the line have stepped up and set up their arrangements as they're required as well.
Okay, we'll just have, sorry, one more just up here for this section. We'll keep moving through and we'll come back to more at the end if we can. Yeah.
We people already donate women's souls to the council through our fire levy. So you, the council, have already got the money that is going to give the people who really need it. So how you can do that?
So we're a collection agency for the fire levy. That money basically comes in to council and then goes to the state government. And that money is then used by the various agencies that are required to fight fires. So council doesn't hold that money. What we have done, as I said before, is we've already started to talk with the state and how the state, Commonwealth and all the regional things are actually going to work together. Because the ADF has come in and reserves, this is kind of new territory. There's a little bit of work still being done, but certainly we've said to the state we need some additional resources and we need funds, and we've already started those conversations. But just to be clear, the fire levy that you pay, that we all pay through our rates, goes directly to the state.
All right, we'll keep moving on. I'll introduce Michelle now from Vic, very briefly. Yep, and she'll talk about stock losses and what we can do in that area.
No worries, thanks for that. My name is Michelle Jolliffe. I'm with Agriculture Victoria, and I'm not just going to talk about stock losses. We've got some teams that have come in from Bairnsdale. We've had a team in today, and we'll have 2 teams in tomorrow, and they're doing livestock assessments, and welfare assessments of all livestock, but also if there's any needs for livestock. So if anyone here tonight knows of some issues around livestock or needing fodder or water, as I mentioned before, stock disposal is, the Shire does facilitate that. Come and see me, and we can see if we can get some teams out to see you tomorrow if you're in an area that we can access. So we'll be working, we've got about 5 teams, I think, that are working out of Bairnsdale. We'll have 2 that are out of Orbost, and we'll just keep working our way slowly east as we get access as well. So if anyone's got any livestock issues or any questions about farms, come and see me. There's also a 2-page leaflet. We like giving out paper, obviously, up in the back corner there behind on the table. So there's a guy there in a brown jumper. Sorry, Mark. There's some pieces of paper there as well, so you're more than welcome to grab them.
Thanks very much for that. And now I'll introduce Lou from DHHS.
Hi, I'm actually going to do a bit of a tag team with Michelle from Ambulance Victoria as well. I guess one of the messages that I just want to say is that there's no wrong contact point. If there's anything that you need, don't hesitate about who you're actually going to, because the message will get through to the people that can assist. Within the incident control centres, there is massive agencies all sitting together. We regularly meet, 2 to 3 times a day and share information. So don't worry if you're not sure whether it's the council or it's DHS or whoever, just contact somebody. The message will get through to the people that can respond. We do have some information available. DHHS does have a role in the recovery space. We do have pamphlets about relief assistance and all those sort of components, and I'll make sure that these get delivered to Orbost tomorrow, so that these are available for when you need them. The main contact points for information though are the 1-800 number and the Vic Emergency app, a Vic Emergency website, which is detailed in the community newsletters that you've got there. From a health perspective, I might just hand over to Michelle just to address some specific issues associated with smoke especially.
Hi guys. We all know we're sitting in a whole cloud of smoke here. Anyone who has health issues, you've got known health issues if they're exacerbated by the smoke, the first message is to follow your normal process of your plan. If you've got asthma, use your asthma pump. But if you know you've escalated beyond that normal, you need a couple of sprays for your asthma pump, you need to contact either your doctor If we've gone beyond that point, you're dialing 000 and we're coming to see you. The big message is stay out of the smoke. If you have respiratory issues and can leave town and can go and stay somewhere else for a few weeks, because we're not talking days, we're talking weeks, then do it. You know, leave town, go and stay with relatives in Melbourne if that's an option for you. If it's not, inside, doors and windows closed. If you've got gaps in doors, wet towels underneath doors. These will help stop the smoke coming into your home. Again, any severe respiratory issues, you dial 000. We've had some issues in Bairnsdale and some of the other areas where we've, Malakuta and such, with gastro. So basic common sense, guys, wash your hands. We've got people coming in and out from all sorts of areas, and we don't know what they're bringing in with them. Wash your hands. It's really, really simple hygiene stuff, but the last thing we need is an outbreak of gastro. And the third thing I want to speak about is mental health. We've all been through a lot. Everyone's anxious. We know people who may be living on their own and suffering from anxiety, needing someone to talk to. You know, are you okay day? We all do check in with people. This is another time. Check in with your neighbours, check in with your friends. Anyone you think is not coping, please speak to. Come and see us, come and see the hospital if somebody is not coping. Okay, it's really, really important because there's a lot of, and I'm going to be sexist and say a lot of blokes out there that are being really tough. A lot of women have been really tough too, actually. And they're not going to tell you, you know, check in with people. Right, they're my three big messages. Okay, thanks guys.
I am conscious of the questions that were asked before in relation to water quality. Unfortunately, I can't provide a response to that, but I will follow up with East Gippsland Water when I get back to the Bairnsdale Incident Control Centre and arrange for some messaging to come through with the traditional information systems so that you've got some clarity about what's happening in that space. I'll also pass on the messaging regarding the Red Cross and the issues with their technology and get some of their information packs arranged to be delivered down to Orbost as well. I'll be hanging around after this meeting finishes, so if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
We've got time for a couple of questions for our operational staff who do have to leave at 6 o'clock, so some quick ones there. The council and GHHS have said they'll stick around for a little while after, so maybe hold your questions for them until after the meeting. Have you got any questions immediately for our incident control or operations officer or Vic Police? Yeah.
Just a quick question for Vic Police. Astonishingly and unfortunately, we've seen some theft and looting taking place. And I'm wondering, is there anything that we can do to maintain our safety and security for our property in this terrible time?
At this stage, I haven't heard of any in Orbost itself, surround. I do know there's reports of people going around in Lakes Entrance. The main thing is, please, Facebook is not the place to put anything on. Please call 000. If you see something suspicious, call 000. Facebook is not the place. We are getting ridiculous rumours going around, and if you hear a rumour, don't get on Facebook because unfortunately there's, I wouldn't quite get to lynch mobs going around, but they're actually targeting the wrong people, and it was the actual job that come in was actually no offence. So please stay off Facebook. 000 is your call. All Crime Stoppers, just do it through the right channels, please. Just another one on Facebook too. Can we please try to be careful on when you keep tagging people or responding to old posts? Because what it's actually doing is it comes up on a feed and it might be an old emergency alert or evacuation alert from 2 days ago. So please, just before you do post anything or tag another friend, please have a look at the timestamp at the front. If it's 2 days old, please don't post on that post, because it can become confusing and it actually detracts from the actual emergency itself. So my word of advice for that, 000 for anything suspicious, Crime Stoppers if it's not urgent, and please stay off Facebook for anything like that.
Just one last one at the back.
What's the plan for all that unburnt country at the back of Numarella?
The plan for unburnt country at the back of Numarella. What's the question?
So, as I indicated before, we've been working in a westerly direction out along this interface towards Numarella there, and we're trying to secure that. We've got crews out there at the moment. So most of that should be burnt out. If it's not burnt out, we will be burning it out and bringing it out to hard control lines wherever we can. And I just wanted to say something, and I'd probably take my operations first off here. And it'd be inappropriate for me to take my uniform off, but as a community member, I know everyone's anxious, and there's a fair bit of tension in the community, and there's people from a range of political and different beliefs in the community. And I think we can do one of two things. We can either shred each other, or we can use an event like this to bring this community together. And I think that it's almost a cleansing by fire in that sense, and I think everyone should put their weapons down, and we should use them as an opportunity to bring this community together and to go forward in East Gippsland. We're on our knees economically around here, we're on our knees socially, but this is about rock bottom. We can make two choices. We can tear each other apart, or we can go forward boldly.
That's a pretty strong way to end the meeting. So that is the end of the formal part of this meeting. There are, as I said, the Shire representatives will stay around